Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast, this time talking about the lie of the land in a desperate attempt to catch up and be back on track to review new Doctor Who at the rate of one a week. It does mean that there's been about 4 Tin Dog podcasts this week, but I'm sure you'll forgive me. The more the merrier, isn't that right? So, the lie of the land, any good? 2 things really stood out for me. As the camera pulled out, revealing the Jack Nicholson-style Doctor with his Joker face, the camera revealed at the bottom that it was a Sharp TV. And I thought, oh, that's odd, that's a bit of product placement, And I know it's one of those nice 16:9, tube TVs that used to be around a few years ago, but it's Sharp. And then later on in the episode, the Doctor distinctly says, I could do with a Strepsil. They strike me as product placement, but I thought, oh no, it's fine with the Sharp, the TV name. And I thought to myself, no, it's fine. Clearly they've stopped using Magpie Electronics, and they just didn't think it through. But then there was a Magpie Electronics shop selling TVs. Are there still shops on high streets with lots of TVs in the window? Not round my way, there's not. But that's beside the point. This is a dystopia, and obviously in dystopias you get shops that sell TVs like that. So when they're the things that stand out the most in your memory, that does not bode well for a review. So obviously and very dutifully I watched it again, and you know what? My problem with the story is just a problem with the end. So I could discuss, and probably will for the next few minutes, how good certain bits were. And I won't go on about it. I mean, yes, I could be picky and say, why wasn't it a picture of Ian McNeice as Churchill instead of Churchill? But perhaps that's part of the fake thing that the monks have organised. They've got somebody else to play Churchill. Or the fact that if you use his image, you have to pay them. Tiny things. Yes, absolutely tiny things, like how on earth did the monks apparently defeat the angels? And that would have been one massive invasion for everyone in the world to go, hey, the angels have invaded. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I know that apparently in the original script it was the Sontarans. And you know what, that actually makes sense because they're the sort of people who would just invade. But that's not important. It's one of those, if you look too closely, it starts ringing alarm bells. These are just tiny moments in your head that make you go, yeah. So you've got that opener. The opener that, of course, we're going to have issues with. But you know what? Who cares? It's the scene immediately after that when the strange, let's call them military police, the monk police, burst in through the door to arrest someone, and the camera doesn't show the person stomping across the photograph for a bit. It's all jackboots in 1984. Yes, some people are immune to the monks' influences, and they're going to spread anti-monk propaganda, because they only know they've only been here for a few months. But then they get sent off to, basically concentration camps for hard labour. When they remember, are they all just going to be sitting around at a camp? And then, of course, they're all going to forget. But that's, again, me looking too closely at the whole thing. This is, oh, God, forgive me for saying this out loud. This is a kid's show, after all. Except it's not. Have you seen The Monks? I'm not letting my kid see that. I couldn't put up with the nightmares. Very self-centred of me, I know. But that's beside the point. Yes, there are fan service moments throughout the whole episode. You've got Missy, you've got the fake regeneration, you've got all that kind of nonsense. But you know what? It just didn't quite do it for me. Is that a crime? Perhaps it is. Now, this woman who just walks in, from the monk police, I really wanted her to be Kate Stewart, or even Osgood, all jackbooted up, and not for any dubious reasons, just to prove that the monks had complete control over Earth. I wanted them to have taken the thing that they should have been frightened of and basically take that power away so that we weren't sat there for the whole of the episode going, shouldn't UNIT be doing something? Yeah. And of course, at its core, you've got, Bill. Oh, how good is Pearl Mackie, right? You've got Bill having a chat with her invention of a mum who doesn't talk. Interesting. If one ever tells her off. Also interesting. And then you've got what basically comes down to a recreation of the Curse of Fenric Ace segment. People have said how much Pearl Mackie reminds her of Ace's character, but then they said that about Rose. But that's because she is enthusiastic. She does have complete faith in the Doctor, and she's also just great. So yeah, you've got to break her faith. You've got to make her shoot the Doctor. Oh, and that brings us to the regeneration scene. Now, a lot of people have gone on and on and on about, the regeneration energy could have solved his eyes. Oh, there you go. So he could have used a bit of the energy to... No, it's a light show. It's an effect. It's something the Doctor can manage to... It's literally fake. It's got no actual regeneration. He isn't beginning to regenerate or anything. He's just putting it on. It's a fake out. Look, if someone uses fake blood to look like they've got an injury, it doesn't mean that they're actually bleeding. Does that make sense? Well, that's kind of where I'm going with this. That's my own personal headcanon when it comes to this particular bit of the story. Yes, my wife turned to me and she went, he did say he wasn't going to stay for very long, and perhaps this is it. Perhaps we've got a new Doctor. No, we haven't. And of course, later on, we did have a conversation. I did stop the TV and say, so, what do you think's going to solve everything? I didn't know how it was going to end at all. And she said, it's not just love, is it? Yep, love saves the day. It's Mr. Moffat's final message to the creation that he's given us. Love will save the day. And like the Beatles said, most of our songs are about love. And if that comes down to what it all is defined by, then that's it. That's the end of things. That's enough. Perhaps we needed something more scientific. The fact that it was scientific enough, and it was so scientific that it required the Doctor to give us a blow-by-blow account of exactly what was going on, because you can't really film that without just having a series of photographs of Bill's mum and us sitting there going, what's going on? It's like watching the end of 2001 without any idea what's going on. You just sit there going, there's a man in a bed, there's some lights, it's finished. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm completely rambling on a level that you've not heard for a while. Right, highlights of the episode. Of course, it's Missy, as always, and the taunting of the Doctor, and it was so nice. Oh, how good was that? The little chats, the little moments. But it does start making me think one of two things. The new Doctor. Will the Doctor end up inhabiting the body of, Missy? Will we have a Gomez-shaped Doctor? The only person to ever play the Master and the Doctor. She's mental enough. It could work. It could end up being that John Sim turns up and she ends up taking on the body. You just don't know. Why do we even know he's back? It's such an oversight. Showing a picture of John Sim in episode 1, and we're up to episode 9 next week, and I can't see him being in that. In fact, I can see next week's episode being utterly standalone, and I'm not really in a position to say that that's a bad thing at all. Let's face it, it's very Cthulhu. It's a trip to the moon that was in an H.P. Lovecraft style. It was in the role-playing game anyway. But it's the trip to Mars in the Victorian era. Oh, it's just Space 1889 all over again. Things that I like. Sorry, I'll save that for next week, shall I? So yes, the Missy moments. The doors just opened to the vault, and I said to my wife, oh look, he's a fan of Silence of the Lambs. He seems to have completely created one of the scenes from Silence of the Lambs just in order to have a chat. And I love that it's Eggman, the one who's bald. Oh yes, little things like that, because she is so evil, so manipulative, and so herself, so not willing to be the Doctor's definition of good. I think the best you could ever hope with the Master in any form is not that he ever turns to good, is that he just becomes neutral. He just stops killing people. That's probably the best thing. Not that he ever... I'll always say here, I'm so sorry. The gender neutral, the Master, Missy. That character will always want to take over the world. And when Missy was crying because of all of the people that she'd ever killed. That's a lot of tears, because if you remember Logopolis, I think she killed about a quarter of the universe. Not just a galaxy, we're talking the entire universe. Now, unless the Gallifreyans found a way of reversing that, and let's hope they did, just leaving the bit with Traken missing, then I think that's a massive problem. But then again, entropy always was a big problem for Doctor Who. Now, when it comes down to it, you know that thing about if you look too closely, it all goes horribly wrong? This is my real issue. This is the sort of thing that ranks with why did the TARDIS explode? What did the monks actually want? Do they have some sort of spacecraft that runs just on adoration? That's basically all I can come up with. Yes, I know a lot of people are arguing that the monks are just the silence. You know, they speak in that strange way, they open and close their mouths, and they've got lightning coming out their fingers. I can see all that. And you know that last time I complained about them possibly being Buddhists. They were a lot more red this time. But I just don't get what they wanted. I don't get how they were controlling things. Yes, I know they were using the random statues as a signal booster, which, here's a bit of headcanon for you if you want to make better. Missy, the master, has dealt with, in the past, the monks, which is how come he knows how to sort them out, right? The master, way back in Last of the Time Lords, set up a psychic network just like the statues in order to try and control Earth. Very, very similar to the statues. It's established early on, the Archangel Network. Now, if Missy's had adventures with the monks and took them out, do you think the Archangel Network is just monk technology repurposed? That would make sense, and it would justify the fact that they're both basically the same storyline. It just fits. Because Missy has had adventures. The thing that I would love to know the most is what would Missy's companion be? Who could possibly be the person who hangs around with Missy or the Master, whoever? I've got some lovely ideas, and it would be really nice to do some sort of cross-pollinization. Obviously, Nyssa wouldn't be wanting to hang around with Anthony Ailey's Master, but it would be nice. Give it some thought. You know your headcanon's up to it. One of the nicer moments, of course, is the raid on the complex, the raid on the Big Pyramid. I wonder if I could get a map and find out exactly which bits of London were squashed. And the fact that they've all got headphones on. Stuff from Tandy. Now, just for the laughs and giggles, I liked to imagine that not all of them were listening to, well, Bill's little hypno message saying about the monks just being fake. No, I think at least one of them had Paul McKenna weight loss tape in order to try and improve themselves. And that led me to thinking all about Chandler's hypno tape that he's got in the episode of Friends, where it turns him into a strong and exciting woman. But then again, I should just shut up really, shouldn't I, and get on with the review. Yes, the Doctor's exposition went on and on and on. But that's fine. The real question, with the monks backdating their influence on Earth, saying that they've always been here, is why is the Earth all so rubbish if they've been here all along? And also, if you had some sort of major influencing alien culture, why aren't we better? Why were they helping us along in the caves? Why didn't they just go, no, don't do that, do this? Or why did they just give us all a round of applause when we got E = MC squared or whatever? It just doesn't make sense if you look at it, but I don't want to look at it because that would stop my enjoyment. So yes, I could moan pointlessly, but what's the point? Seriously, what is the point? There's a rule in TV fiction that if you tell the audience how you're going to do a raid or a robbery or a rescue, it just doesn't work. However, if you don't tell the audience how you're going to do something, it does work. It kicks in. It kind of just, works. Because you basically get the job once. Ocean's 11, a very good example of this sort of thing. So that's why nobody ever gets told how something's going to go down if it doesn't go down. See, for example, that heist episode, Time Heist. Yeah, you get told how you're going to do it and then it'll go wrong. If you don't get told how it's going to do it, it goes right. And yes, there was the whole video montage and, oh, that fake news line. It just works. But as today, in the UK's voting day, I'd rather not think about fake news at all, if that's all right. Most of the news out there is real. Saying that it's all fake, well, that's worse than lying. So, by the time you hear this, we'll either have a new government or an old government. And either way, yeah. Look, I'll come back probably even tomorrow and talk about more Doctor Who. So until then, be seeing you. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.